If I look at the things around me, my apple was plucked from a tree and came directly on my plate. But where did the plate come from?
It's made from metal in a factory, but the metal came from Earth's crust. And the book in my hand is made of paper. The paper again was made in a factory from wood.
Everything that we use in our daily lives, the air we breathe, the water, the food we eat, clothes, books, electricity, buildings, gadgets, shoes are resources that makes our life possible. But what is a resource? Well, everything available in the environment that we can use to satisfy our need is a resource. But there is a big but here. It has to satisfy three conditions.
It has to be technologically accessible, economically feasible, and culturally acceptable.
Some resources can be used as found in the nature. For example, the apple, or some may have to be transformed like the metal plate.
The process of transformation of things available in our environment involves an interactive relationship between nature, technology, and institutions. Human beings interact with nature through technology and create institutions to accelerate their economic development. Resources can be classified in multiple ways. The first classification is obviously natural or man-made or by human intervention. On the basis of origin, they can be biotic or abiotic. Biotic are all the living things in nature. This would include all the animals, plants, human beings, livestock, etc. While abiotic are the non-living things that and aren't created or produced by humans. For example, air, water, rocks, etc.
Next classification is based on exhaustibility. There are two categories.
First ones are renewable resources. The resources which can be renewed or reproduced by physical, chemical, or mechanical processes are known as renewable or replenishable resources. For example, solar and wind energy, water, forests and wildlife, etc. The second are non-renewable resources which cannot be replenished. Minerals and fossil fuels are examples of such resources. These resources take millions of years in their formation. Some of the resources like metals are recyclable and some like fossil fuels cannot be recycled and get exhausted.
Now, the next category is based on ownership. Some resources are owned by an individual privately and are known as individual resources.
For example, house, land, orchards, etc. Some resources are owned by a community. For example, the village well, grazing land, parks, playgrounds, community centers, places of worships, etc. Such places are known as community-owned resources. Next are the natural resources. For example, the roads, the bridges, the canals, the dams, etc. Technically, everything in a country, including private goods, belong to the nation. All the minerals, water resources, forests, wildlife, land within the political boundaries, and oceanic area up to 12 nautical miles, that is 22.2 kilometers from the coast, termed as territorial water, and resources therein belong to the nation. The last category in this set is international resources. There are international institutions which regulate some resources. The oceanic resources beyond 200 nautical miles of the exclusive economic zone belong to open ocean, and no individual country can utilize these without the concurrence of international institutions. Yet another way to classify resources is on the basis of the status of their development. The first category is potential resources. That is, resources which are found in a region but have not been utilized. For example, Rajasthan and Gujarat have enormous potential for the development of wind and solar energy, but so far these have not been developed properly. The next is developed resources. These are the resources that have been surveyed and their quality and quantity have been determined for utilization. They are also called actual resources. For example, natural gas and petroleum in Bombay High, the coal mines in the eastern India. There are a set of resources that exist in the environment, but we don't have the technology as of now to access them economically. For example, extraction of hydrogen from water, which is a compound of hydrogen and oxygen, H2O. These resources are known as stock. There is a difference between stock and potential resources. Can you tell me? Yes, potential resources are found but not utilized despite having the technology, while stock have been found but not been utilized because of lack of suitable technology. The last category is reserve. It is a subset of the stock which can be put into use with the help of existing technical know-how, but their use has not been started. These can be used for meeting future requirements. River water can be used for generating hydroelectric power, but presently it is being utilized only to a limited extent. Thus, the water in the dams, forests, etc. is a reserve which can be used in the future.
Suppose you go to a shop that sells candies of the best quality. One day the shop owner says, everything is for free. Take as much as you can. What do you think happens next? Chaos of the best kind?
Everyone takes more than they need. Some hoard and then sell it for a price later. And everybody keeps taking till the candies finish, not leaving anything for more kids who may want to have some too. Similarly, natural resources have been thought to be a free gift and used just like that. The consequences of this rampant usage has led to the depletion of resources, accumulation of resources in a few hands, thus dividing the society into two segments of rich and poor, and exploitation of resources, that is, leading to global ecological crises such as global warming, ozone layer depletion, environmental pollution, and land degradation.
What could the shopkeeper of the candy shop have done differently? He could have said free candies, but 25 each only. This would have ensured more kids would have gotten the candies. Some would not have hoarded a lot of candies.
Similarly, an equitable distribution of resources has become essential for a sustained quality of life and global peace. Sustainable development means development should take place without damaging the environment, and development in the present should not compromise with the needs of the future generations. Sustainable development can come with proper planning. With this in mind, the first International Earth Summit was held in 1992, where more than 100 heads of states met in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. The summit was convened for addressing urgent problems of environmental protection and socio-economic development at the global level. The assembled leaders signed the Declaration on Global Climatic Change and Biological Diversity. The Rio Convention endorsed the Global Forest Principles and adopted Agenda 21 for achieving sustainable development in the 21st century. Agenda 21 aims at achieving global sustainable development. It is an agenda to combat environmental change, poverty, disease through global cooperation on common interest, mutual needs, and shared responsibilities. One major objective of the Agenda 21 is every local government should draw its own local Agenda 21.
Resource planning is the widely accepted strategy for judicious use of resources. India is a large country which has enormous diversity in the availability of resources. That is, some regions have surplus of resources while the others may be deficient in the same. For example,
Rajasthan has ample solar and wind energy but lacks in water. Arunachal Pradesh has water but does not have infrastructural development. Therefore, balanced resource planning at the national, state, regional, or local levels is required. Resource planning in India involves: first, identification and inventory of resources across the regions of the country. This involves surveying, mapping, and qualitative and quantitative estimation and measurement of the resources. Second, evolving a planning structure endowed with appropriate technology, skill, and institutional setup for implementing resource development plans. Third, matching the resource development plans with overall national development plans. Better technology and economic development lead to higher consumption of resources. If you notice, it is an endless circle where we have better technology leading to more production, which in turn leads to better economic conditions and therefore more consumption. More consumption means higher demand leading to higher production. All of this means resources are utilized at a higher rate. Most of the resources are not endless. Irrational use and overutilization of resources leads to socio-economic and environmental problems. Therefore, resource conservation at various levels is important. That brings us to an end of our today's session. But before, I would like to sign off with a quote from Gandhiji, who said, "There is enough for everybody's need and not for anybody's greed."
Let's not be greedy and use only as much as we need so that there will be enough for us and for the generations to come.